Ray for inviting me here. I was a student at the school 4 years ago. I came to do the XLT course, so it's really good to be back and standing up in front of everyone this time. So just be aware that Ray has your contact details, and he may be giving you a call in a couple of years' time to come back and talk to everyone at the summer school. What I'm going to talk to you today is about digital images. I've been specialising in the use of digital images for the cultural and heritage sector for the past 10 years or so. And I specialise in something called digitisation, that is the conversion of cultural and heritage material into digital objects that people can use. But when you're asking for a talk like this, no one tells you exactly what to talk about. And digitisation in itself is a little bit dry, so I thought, I could stand up here and give the usual spiel about digitisation and usual rhetoric. I thought, let's not do that. So then I thought, well, what can I talk about? Well, there's some issues which are emerging about digital imaging and digitisation, specifically for libraries, archives and museums. But again, a lot of the technical issues have been resolved recently. There's a lot of good guides, good practice, a lot of good manuals that you can consult if you're setting up a digitisation project. Another thing I've been working on is personal digital image collection. Who here has a digital camera? We've reached near saturation point. Anyone in the audience who wants a digital camera but doesn't have one can just go buy one. There's a reason why people don't have digital cameras. It's a choice that they don't have one. Same question, who had a digital camera 10 years ago in 1999? Only a few people in the room. In the last few years, there's been a seismic change in the way that we take, share, and produce image material. We used to have chemical print, now we've all switched to digital media. This has changed the way that we view photography, it's changed the way we interact with images, and it's changed the way we interact with cultural heritage. So what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about all three things. I'm going to talk about digitisation, how it's used in the library and archive world. I'm going to talk about some issues which are coming, predominantly about use and users, and I'm going to talk about how that interacts with people when they want to interact with cultural heritage information and cultural and heritage institutions. And I had so much fun doing this, I'm going to base the entire lecture around one object, one particular artwork. And the first chore that you have, because this is a summer school, right, it's not a summer spoon feed, is you have to tell me what the object is I'm going to talk about. I'll give you a clue. It is the most famous piece of art in the world.
PI guidelines.
No, that is art. The Mona Lisa. Well done, got it in one. I was really nervous that we have to stand up here and give you like 50 clues. But yeah, we're basing it on the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa, one of the most famous artworks in the world, is an image you'll have seen everywhere. You probably haven't looked at it for a very, very long time. She is not what we would call a modern beauty. She's a very strange and enigmatic person. And I'm going to base the whole lecture around this. Why will become, or should become, very obvious, I hope. In 1962, the Mona Lisa left New York to stay at the Metropolitan Museum of Art for 7 weeks, then went on to DC for 7 weeks. In that time, 500,000 people queued up to see her. It was in the winter, they stood in the snow. 500,000 people in 7 weeks, that's 10,000 people a day filed past to see this cultural heritage object. Why did they do that? Well, there's a number of reasons. If we think back to the 1960s, they didn't have colour TV, they didn't have the internet, they hadn't seen the proper reproduction of this artwork, they wanted to see the real thing. Human beings are pack animals, they wanted to see what was the most important piece of art in the world. But if we think on another level, human beings absolutely love to look at things. Human beings love images. There's a reason for that. 60% of our brain is devoted to image processing. And there's a reason for that. We're all still on the planes trying to avoid getting eaten by woolly mammoths, right? And we're looking for danger all the time. In a modern society, we don't need to use these skills anymore, but we still have the same biological apparatus, which means that we'd like to look at things. Humans get all kinds of pleasure, and I'm not going to go there, but they get all kinds of pleasure from looking at image-based material. Now, the word image actually comes from the Latin imaginare, to imagine. And images have a root to our emotions, to our imaginations. They have a physical effect on the human body as well. We like to see things, we like to process things. We also learn to see things a year before we can understand language. Babies can see as soon as they're born, it takes a year for them to learn words. So there's something primal about looking at stuff, and there's something primal about engaging with beautiful images which touch us. And a lot of artwork, that is what is going on chemically in our brains.
The Mona Lisa is no different. In 1962 and 1963, at the same time as the Mona Lisa came to New York, there was a struggling artist called Andy Warhol there. He was famous that he had his first exhibition in 1962. He didn't bother going to see the Mona Lisa. He couldn't understand why people would stand for hours in the snow to go and queue up and see this thing. He then went on to produce lots of artworks which he became famous for in his first exhibition, trying to turn this icon into something that could just recreate. He understood the power of the image. But he also said, I don't know why they bothered. They should have just sent a copy. They should have just sent a copy. He didn't understand why the French government spent nearly £500,000 in insurance costs getting it over to New York. They should have just sent a copy. Now, of course, we have known how to take copies, good copies of images, for a very, very long time. Photography, founded in about 1840, we could take photographic prints. What you might not know is the first electronic images, where people could scan something electronically and send it over the wire, happened 10 years after the founding of photography. The Victorians had fax machines. You've got a lot of Victorians, they did all kinds of stuff that we don't know about today. So this is a digital image of Mona Lisa. It only has 6 colours, and it works with our visual processing information in our head to resolve itself into an image. How digital images work is you take an image, you put it up into squares, you give each one of these squares an individual colour value, and the human eye brain system resolves that into a picture. We should all see that this is the Mona Lisa. It only has 6 colours. Can anyone tell me what this is made of?
Ceramic tile.
It's made of our old friend the Rubik's Cube. We also have one here which is made of
Ceramic tile.
This is made of burnt toast. Some people really have too much pie in their hands. But the fact of the matter is, once you take an image, once you resolve it into these parts, you make this part small enough, about 70 dots per inch, the human eye sees it as a continuous tone image. Once you have this code, one black bit, one black bit, one grey bit, one black bit, you can then send it across the wire, you can print it out, you can copy it, you can distribute it, you can analyse it, you can do all kinds of things with it. So digitisation, the conversion of pictorial information into digital code, means that we can do all kinds of things and reproduce. We could send a copy. We could send a copy of the Mona Lisa. And we do. Libraries, archives and museums have been merely digitising stuff since the 1980s, converting their holdings, whether it's textual, whether it's artwork, into things that people can look at remotely. Now, it wasn't until Christmas Day in 1990 when things got really interesting. Because although we could share or create these things, there was no real way to actually share them. And on Christmas Day in 1990, a student, much like you, a master's level student, created a little program called the World Wide Web and released it to the web. Now I can remember what I was doing on Christmas Day in 1990, and it wasn't changing the world by writing a bit of software. I was getting very, very drunk. I don't know what you were doing at Christmas Day in 1990. But since IRC released this browser onto the web, we now have the means, the World Wide Web, of sharing information. Added to that, we have plummeting costs in computing and plummeting costs in digital cameras, which means people have the means to take images themselves, we have the vehicle to share them, and we have the desire to look at images. This has converged to make a perfect storm. About 2005, digital images go absolutely mental. A website called Flickr is founded. There are now 3.6 billion photographs on Flickr. That has happened in the last 2 to 3 years. It's estimated that there are now more digital images being taken in the last year, the last 12 months alone, than there have been in the entire history of photography before. How we use digital imaging is changing, how we interact with it is changing. So let's go back to culture and heritage. What does that mean for us? Well, the first issue is that people don't get the chance to go and look at stuff in the same way they did before. You wouldn't get the chance to go and peer at the Mona Lisa like this. We don't get to treat things as objects. We treat things as 2-dimensional images which we can look at on a computer. Is anyone being to see the Mona Lisa here? Is this representative of your experience? Here she is, in the background here. There's maybe 300 people standing there waving things in front of it. This is what it's like to actually see the Mona Lisa in reality. And when you're there, you might actually want to go and take a picture yourself. You want to share